edition of Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin. And today we're going to touch upon a variety of different topics. But one of the topics that we're going to talk about is about the healing process that needs to go on in this great city of Detroit. And that is a healing process that we need to have the young men be able to embrace the young men about what is going on in the community, what we need to do to help strengthen especially our black young men in the community, and what are some of the resources that we can think about that could assist black men in making certain that the village is healed and is on a healing path. But before we get started, we want to talk a little bit about some of the things that women are doing in this community. And we are very fortunate to have a young lady who is going to be on the show today with me that's going to talk about the Belle of the Ball, which is the annual prom dress giveaway that's being sponsored not in its entirety, but Alicia Bell has been doing this. This is the chair of the Wayne County Commissioners. And she's done this for several years, and I really tip my hat off to her for all of what she's done when it comes down to assisting young ladies that may not be able to go and afford a prom dress. And I see some of these young ladies when they go to the proms sharp. I mean, they could cut butter. You know, they're so sharp. And especially looking at some of the young men that are with them. And times have changed so much since I was at my prom, and the outfits are a lot different. Men's outfits are so different compared to the women's outfits from back in the day. But one of the things that I really commend is that they're trying to do everything they can to alleviate some of the issues that young men and some women are going through when it comes to being able to represent their school at their proms, because some of those dresses are pretty expensive. And the other thing that we're going to talk about too is the Women's Resource Fair that's going to be going on. This is through the Wayne County Women's Commission, and it's in partnership in terms of, say, along with the Wayne County College, the Northwest Campus. So we'll give you some more information about that. We hopefully will have some callers to call in and talk a little bit more about that. But if they don't, then I've got a person here whose name is Summer Moore Crawford that will be able to go and have that conversation with you. So it looks like we've got a couple of callers to call in. Caller, you're on the line with myself, with Roy McAllister Jr., and also this young lady, I know you know her, and this is Summer Moore Crawford. Welcome to a special edition of Truth to Power. Can you hear me, caller?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Now, can you identify who you are and then talk about the Women's Resource Fair that Summer has brought to our attention today?
Oh, hi. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk with you today. My name is Cynthia Douglas, and I'm the chair of the Wayne County Women's Commission.
Welcome. We are so appreciative of you calling in this morning.
Yeah, and you have my colleague there and a member of the Women's Commission there, Summer Crawford, which we've worked together for quite some time now, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. So our Women's Commission Resource Fair, our fourth annual Resource Fair, is being held on April 30th at the Wayne County Community College Northwest District. It's on a Thursday. And we have over 80 vendors. And I don't know if our other colleague, Latanya Gator, who is the chair of the Resource Fair, is on the line. But we're here to uplift women, and men can come as well. We do have some resources for men that they can benefit from this. And I know that you're going to be talking about things that men can do or to assist young men to navigate through this life. So we have vendors that will benefit both men and women, but our main focus is, of course, on women. We have resources such as employment opportunities. We also have wellness we will be doing CPR, hands-on CPR. We have a shred event that will be happening between the hours of 11 and 2. We also have Wayne State's mobile health unit that will be on site. The shred event is being sponsored partnership with Spectrum Human Services. So we have a lot of things going on, and we're really excited about it. And it's free to the public.
Now, if a person wanted to get more information about the event, is there a website or is there a number that they can call?
So they can visit our Wayne County mi.gov, and the information is on the website.
Okay, and you say it's a free event, right?
Yes, it's free to the public. There'll be some giveaways. There'll be some, they will have an opportunity to talk to employers just to get an idea of what they're looking for. And some interviews will be held. So, yeah, it's a free event.
Yeah, I think the minute you say the word free, it perks up the antennas on a lot of people when they hear the word free, and especially with all of the resources that you're going to provide there at your resource fair. But is there anything else in terms of, say, that now you mentioned about there may be some resources there for the men, as well, besides the women.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the other resources that you may have for the men?
Well, there's employment opportunities and there's wellness. We have the health. Wayne State University has the health mobile unit, which will be conducting health screenings, which men, and as we all know, sometimes they don't want to go to the doctor. So this is an opportunity for them to get their blood pressure checked and get their sugar levels checked, just get some generalized things so that they could take it forward to their doctor if they want a follow-up visit. So, yeah, we have the mobile unit there. We have some wellness things going on. CPR, everyone needs to know CPR. So, disproportionately, African Americans do not have that opportunity to do CPR. Or, if somebody is in a crisis, this is a great opportunity for you to learn something to help save a life. So there's a number of things that we're going to have that men can participate in. Well, and I don't know if Summer wants to jump in, but yeah.
I mean, you've done an awesome job, because I don't know what's really left that Summer can really kind of add to it. But Summer, was there anything else that you wanted to add to it?
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on, Chair. We've been doing this for 4 years. Can you speak about when the Women's Commission started and what led us to doing such an amazing event? And I know that we may have our event chair, Latanya Gator, who also may have joined as well.
Yeah, so the Women's Commission was started in 2021 at the urging of our former member, Sarah Roberts. She encouraged Chair Bell to develop this Women's Commission, and so it was brought before the full board of the 15 commissioners, and we have an ordinance that was done, which, formed the Wayne County Women's Commission. So we're celebrating our 5th year. And so during our first year, it was brought to us to do a resource fair by former member Dr. Regina Randall. And so we took it on the first year. It was a great event, and it's continued on for up to today.
Well, I think that, you two have done a great tandem. I don't know if we have our other caller on. Is her name Ms. Gator?
Yes.
Ms. Gator, are you on the line with us? Okay. It looks like we don't have an additional caller to call in, but we know that she is keeping us lifted up in our, on what we're saying. So is there anything else that you'd like to say before we...
I just want to add that we have 19 members of the Women's Commission, and we are all strong individuals, and we come from different parts of business, government, private business, nonprofits, and so we've all come together to form this commission and to support this resource fair. And there'll be other initiatives that we will be having, so just keep an eye on us. We have a number of things coming up.
We'll keep both eyes on you.
And
Go ahead.
also, Chair, I just wanted to also share, we want to say thank you to all of our volunteers. For several years, we've had a lot of volunteers to come out and support. We had an overwhelming, probably within the first week, at least 50 or so sign up. And we're excited because we need a lot of resources. We're there. We have ability to assist those who have special needs as well. We'll take over the entire upstairs of the Wayne County Community College District, and we're going to be at the Northwest Campus at 8200 West Outer Drive, just west of the Southfield Freeway. This is open because it is covering all of Wayne County. So we're still looking for vendors who are seeking employment for their businesses. If you have health and wellness that you would like to share, please reach out to us. If you have housing resources, also skilled trades, we are definitely want to reach everyone to give great support through the Wayne County District. And we know that there are some youth who may be out of school at the time, because the fair will be from 9:30 a.m. until 3 p.m. If they could come out as well, if they have availability. So this is a community effort. And thank you, Chair, for all that you do and your leadership in helping to support. And thank you also to all of the Wayne County commissioners who have supported us for many years on this great cause.
Yeah, and I thank you that Summer, but I couldn't do this without our members and their support and their commitment to this commission, and of course to the Wayne County commissioners. And I also want to give a special shout out to our partners that have stepped up to support this resource fair. E2E Healthcare, Spectrum Human Services, and Wayne State's mobile unit, as well, especially Wayne County Community College Northwest District, and Dr. Anderson and her help in getting this done. So it takes a group of people to get this done, and I just appreciate all the support that has been given to this. So thank you again.
Well, we know it's going to be we know it's going to be a very, very successful event, and we definitely want to encourage everyone to show up and to be able to go and get tested, to be able to go, and especially when you mentioned that part before about the men being a little stubborn when it comes to going to get some examinations. And
Absolutely.
We're hoping that some of the women that bring them to the fair will encourage them to go and seek this opportunity to go and get tested, because you want to have a healthy community with healthy men and women. So I know women, sometimes, you have women that'll go and kind of encourage, I'm not going to say the word nag, but they're going to encourage men to do what they need to do. So that's going to be a crucial part about it too. And also that the attendees can register in Eventbrite. So that's the other thing that we want to make certain of as well. But is there anything in closing before we wrap this part up on this segment that you'd like to add to it, you or Summer?
Yes. Thank you for mentioning Eventbrite. We have the Wayne County Women's Commission. Please check us out. We have other events as well, but this is our annual event on April 30th, and Eventbrite is going to be one of your best resources to sign up. And Chair, do you have any other? I know we have a lot of vendors that's still signing up, but again, thank you, Chair. Thank you to the Wayne County Commissioners. But Chair, we have, I know Dr. Regina Hall and Latanya Gator, who are heads of our resource fair. And is there any last minute words you would like to share?
No, but I do want to thank Mr. Griffin for the opportunity to be able to present this to your listeners, and because we need this information to be distributed, and what better way to do this but through radio and TV and the media. And so I just really appreciate the opportunity for having us on. So hats off to you, Mr. Griffin, and keep up the good work.
Madam Chair, this is Roy McAllister Jr. Thank you so much for providing this. I just wanted to ask, at this point, do you know how many vendors that you have signed up at this point?
We have approximately, let me look at my notes. Give me a second. We have approximately 65 to 70 vendors signed up at this time.
Great.
And we do have room for a few more vendors.
Okay.
So if any vendors out there are interested in providing or presenting any of their services, education, housing, career, life, estate planning resources, health, anything of that nature, please reach out. Check our Eventbrite. Look on our Wayne County mi.gov website, and you can find more information there.
Thank
you.
you.
You can call here as well. I'll give you my office number, 313-224-0948.
And one thing I wanted to add too was that thank you, Roy, for that question, because I was wondering too. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that we do a lot from the organization I vice chair called Detroit Downriver A. Philip Randolph Institute, and we do a lot of voter registration. So that was a question I was going to ask you and ask Summer, whether or not if there were any people that were going to be there at your fair to register voters.
Good question.
Last year, I know that we did have someone to register voters. I have to double check on that. However, if you have someone or if your organization that you just mentioned would like to provide that type of service, absolutely. We encourage everyone, especially to vote. So we would like for you to have that opportunity to be there on site, to register voters.
That sounds great.
And Madam Chair, I also wanted to encourage, because we do represent all of Wayne County, this is just not a Detroit event, because there is a Michigan Women's Commission as well as a Detroit Women's Commission, but this is the Wayne County Women's Commission that we're speaking about. And we, again, service all of Wayne County, including Downriver, Highland Park, Hamtramck, Brownstown, Trenton, Livonia, Plymouth, everything, all 43, I believe it's 43 counties. I don't want to misquote that, but just to let you know, we have had so much support. So again, if you're hiring in different areas, Taylor, please reach out to us, because we have so many people, community. We usually have over 250 attendees, and I believe this year will be larger. So Chair could speak to that. But Chair Douglas, before you go, could you share your telephone number one more time, just in case anyone wants to reach out about this event?
Sure. The office number is 313-224-0948.
All right. Well, we thank you for coming on. We thank you for coming on the show with us, and we know that this is going to be a very, very successful event, and we will continue to pass this information on about your fair. So, again, thank you for coming on Truth to Power today with us.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you again for the time and the opportunity. Summer, thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Stay safe.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Summer, now you've got another event that's going on, correct?
Yes. So, Chair Alicia Bell, Wayne County Commissioner Chair Alicia Bell, and all of the volunteers for the past 18 to 19 years has been hosting Belle of the Ball. And many of you may have seen last week on Go For It on WDIV4 with the entire morning crew that we were accepting donation of dresses, new and gently used. And when I tell you that outpour was phenomenal, we were able to collect an astounding 1,280, so 1,280 dresses that are new and gently used, as well as shoes and accessories that we will be able to share with the community. And we still have additional dresses. So if you have a young woman who is going to homecoming, military ball, prom, even our 8th graders, please have them contact 313-224-0948. 0936. Again, that's 313-224-0936. This is the Belle of the Ball, which will be held on Saturday, April 11th from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. at the Boys and Girls Club at 16500 Tireman, Detroit, Michigan 48228. And the Boys and Girls Club is located just east of the Southwood Freeway. Now, as a volunteer, I've been volunteering for the Belle of the Ball for 15 years. And when I tell you that early arrival is recommended, we have a wonderful process. Trust me, we have plenty of dresses to shop from of all sizes. And we just encourage our schools to be supportive behind this event. But yes, we will have dresses of all sizes. It is free. Check that out. It's free. I saw some few dresses that were upwards of $800 to $1,300, tags still on the dress. So thank you so much to Chair Bill and her entire team, Michelle Dustin, Keandra, Mother Beverly King, just for leading the way and helping others to come and volunteer and encouraging us to volunteer as well. So again, if you would like to volunteer, if you still have information that you would like to share or provide a address or so, 313-224-0936. But it's free and it's plenty of dresses. This is a prime dress season. Don't spend when you can go ahead and save, because we really want our young ladies to feel comfortable. This is their day to be their Cinderella. So when they come, we ask the parents, yes, you can come, but this is about the young ladies. This is their special moment, their special day. So we'll have music there, entertainment, and great volunteers. And of course, Chair Bell's there all the way. And Mom Bell, Edna Bell, she's there as well.
Well, that's great, Summer. So definitely take advantage of that, because I've seen so many young ladies go to their proms and they have been sharp, as I was saying earlier. So this may be one of the places that they've gotten their dress from. But the one thing that's great about this is that, as you were just saying, Summer, the money that a mother may save from having to go and buy that dress, I very much commend you and commission Bell for that information. But we got to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk about the village and talk about how the village needs some healing when it comes down, especially to our young men. So stay tuned.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. If you're behind on your property taxes, we have programs to help. You don't have to lose your house, and you don't have to pay all at once. This summer, our mobile unit will be visiting Wayne County communities to help make it easier to start a payment plan and keep your property. Go online or call to find the plan that's right for you and where you can get help from our mobile unit. The last thing I want is for anyone to lose their property to foreclosure. Make your payments every month and keep your property.
If you enjoyed the music, the talk, and the vibe right here on WHPR, we need your support. Help us keep independent radio alive by sending a Cash App donation of whatever you can to $WHPR TV Radio. Every dollar makes a difference. That's $WHPR TV Radio. Support the station that supports you.
Every Monday through Friday from 12 noon to 3 p.m., it's the Tavis Smiley Show on WHPR TV and Radio 15.2. Also seen on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, iPhone, and Android. That's the Tavis Smiley Show on WHPR TV and Radio. Download the WHPR TV app for iOS, Android, and Roku. The Tavis Smiley Show, distributed by RJ Watkins Studios.
Hey, I'm the new girl at WHPR, Kimberly Clemens, the host of Chats and Chuckles. Tune in on Tuesdays, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Chats and Chuckles. I am here to bring life to the chatter that matters.
Justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Matter. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself.
Feel good about your future with tuition-free programs at Wayne County Community College District. Whether you want to be in healthcare, computer science, the culinary arts, digital media, or robotics and automation for the next generation of vehicles, WCCCD has you covered. A full range of programs to achieve your goals, fit your schedule, and give you all the support you need to be successful. All of it tuition-free. Now there's something to feel good about. Register today at wccccd.edu.
All media platforms are engaged. Copy.
Get ready to launch your show or product.
Periscope ready. We're 5x5 ready to launch. Copy that.
Trend worldwide across all major platforms.
Ignition. 3, 2, 1.
The world is waiting. Watkins Broadcasting. More than just TV. Have you ever wanted your own TV show? Have you dreamed of showcasing your talent for the world to see? Well, now you can. Have your own TV show. You can have your own 30-minute show. Not only will you be seen in the Detroit area, but you can be viewed worldwide. For more information, call 313-868-6612. Visit our studios and receive a free TV interview to promote your business, church, or organization by appointment only.
313watkins.com. Streaming on Roku.
Show, and we are now joined by two phenomenal men in this community. I think that one I know needs very little introduction because I think that everybody in the great city of Detroit knows this young man. He was a former city councilman and represented the great section of Detroit called Northwest, and that was up there near the was that Roy? The district was like. What was your district?
District 2.
And what
the
was
Avenue of Fashion. And
so the Avenue of Fashion up on Livernois.
That's up on Livernois, yes, sir.
And then you stretched out as far west as where?
I went from Woodward to Southfield, 8 Mile down to Davison. That was the area. It changed because it used to go, well, actually when I was there, it went from John R. to Southfield, but then they changed it with the redrawing of the lines. So now it's Woodward to Davison, 8 Mile to Davison, Woodward to Southfield.
And now you were a former investigator with the Detroit Police Department, correct?
Yeah, I used to run. I used to be the commanding officer of Detroit Homicide Section. I was over there, and also I was the regional commander for the 5 northern provinces of Iraq, which I spent 3 years in Iraq. So, yeah, I've been around.
And I guess I also have to mention too, since you also serve as my guest co-host on occasions, I will, even though it's hard for me to say it, but you are a fellow Divine Nine member of what fraternity? I keep forgetting those names other than just the Alphas, but what fraternity is it again?
It is the infamous Kappa Alpha Psi.
Oh, those guys.
You gotta watch yourself now. You gotta watch yourself. But one of the things, and my brother here, Devon Watson, who we're getting ready to meet, one of the things that we are of the Divine Nine, but we're still, what people have to understand is we're always about the community. And I think we're going to get into that. And I think a lot of folks do not understand that when they hear about the Divine Nine. So we're going to get into a lot of that. You know.
Well, since you segued, I'll let you introduce your fellow Kappa brother right here.
Well, you know, from the Detroit, our Detroit Alumni Association, I have one of my good brothers here, Devon Watson, and I'm gonna let him take it from there.
Well, thank you for the introduction. Again, my name is Devon Watson. I am a Detroit native to the city, born and raised. Proud graduate of Morehouse College, so strong foundation in what it takes to, take young black men and to move them to the next level. Entrepreneur by trade. I own and operate my own business. We do a lot in terms of what we give back to the community. We do a lot of resources with helping with free resume printing and things like that. I'm also a proud alum and mentor of the Midnight Golf Program, College Career and Beyond here in the city. I've been doing that for the past 9 years, working with thousands of youth that have come through our program, getting to see the things that they're dealing with, the things that they're going through, and how to really connect with them and understand what their true needs and desires are. So I'm excited to be here today. Again, and as my brother here said, I'm a proud member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated as well. But glad to be able to have this conversation and engage in this dialogue about what is really needed to help our young men, because a lot of times it's on the surface we look at it, but there's some deeper rooted issues and things that we truly need to address, other than just calling out the problems.
Well, and I appreciate that, Devon. I think the thing is that I got this call yesterday from one of my frat brothers, who had said that they were having a meeting this morning over at Mumford High School to talk about some of the things that's going on, especially with the young black men there at the school. So he had asked me, could I come and help the Divine Eye to talk about some of the issues going on at Mumford. But like I told him, I've got a TV show that I have to do this morning. So what I wanted to do was to kind of address the issue so that maybe then we can send this show to the principal over there at Mumford, and they can get an opportunity to find what some of the resources, some of the things that we see in the community, what we hear when we have our boots to the ground, and understand what young black men may be dealing with. Okay. Not just at Mumford High School, but the other high schools and middle schools, and elementary schools, as well. So I guess the first thing that I'll mention about is the fact that, what do you think, gentlemen, are the real issues that young black men, and especially growing up in a household that may not have any other males there, what do you think are the issues that some of these young black men are faced with growing up in a fatherless household?
Well, I think one of the things that was discussed earlier with Ms. Crawford and Chair Douglas was the fact that a lot of times when you expose young men to a lot of things, they can see is more than just what is around or what they're surrounded or in their basement of their mothers, grandmothers, whatever. And I think that's one of the things that we need to be looking at is exposure. I know I was talking to State Representative Tyrone Carter, who does a tour, a black college tour. And when he takes those young men out to these black colleges, it just opens up their vision as far as there's other things besides what's going on again in Detroit. And I think these are some of the things that we're looking at, and I'm gonna go into some other things regarding the mental health, but I want Devon to kind of go in because he's also, we're talking about generations here, and there's different mindsets. And I may look at it at one mindset, my brother here may look at it one mindset, as well as yourself, because again, we talk about the fraternities and the Divine Nine, but we all are there because I know the Alphas have an outstanding program for young men, as well as the Omegas and the Sigmas. So, there's just so much opportunity out there, and I really don't think we have enough time to really go into it. But Devon, I'm going to turn it over to you, brother, and kind of let you for what you see.
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I think exposure is everything, and I think it's going to be meeting them where they are. Mm-hmm. Over the course of the years, I've gotten a chance to really grow up, in my own personal life. As I entered my 30s, my children got older. I got to watch them go through things. And I find myself
Your children got older.
we're not gonna get into that. But yes,
brother don't even look. Brother look like he in his 20s.
No, not at all. But as I've watched them grow, I find myself sometimes saying things like, "Oh, well, it was like this then," right? Or these are the issues, and I find myself not listening to the things that they're going through and dealing with, and associating them with how times were when I was coming around. And I firmly believe that a lot of the things, and we could talk about a lot of different issues from a lot of different levels, from the exposure to seeing, just I remember growing up seeing men that looked like me in the neighborhood getting up and go to work every day. Right?
Yes, sir.
Coming home, taking care of their yards.
Yes, sir.
We've lost a lot of that.
Yes, sir.
Right? So a lot of the subconscious things that tend to happen, and on a deeper level, our young men aren't seeing.
Yes, sir.
And when they try to talk about these things, due to a lot of toxic masculinity, desensitization, they don't have the outlets and the spaces to feel vulnerable.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
And when you really get down to them, they're ambitious, they're driven, they just want to be heard, feel like their voices matter.
Yes, sir.
And how we get there, it's a process. Right? But it's going to be everybody coming to the table, like you said, from different walks of life, different generations, different organizations, and realizing we have a shared lived experience in this country, that it's not us against one another, but it's us against the problem.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I know, I'm proud to say that my two sons, I have one that he is the chief of police for Ypsilanti Police Department. And then I have another son who just retired from the Air Force, and now he's getting ready to start his own business. But one of the things that I looked at, especially my son that retired from the Air Force, he was back here and, really nothing was going on. And I said, look, you need to go into the military. And a lot of people are negative about that. But now after his retirement, he's got a check that's coming in, and now he has two sons. My son that is the sheriff in Ypsilanti, he has two. I have two granddaughters. He has two daughters, and so we look at that parallel as what Ms. Crawford had talked about as far as the young women, and I also look at that parallel as far as the young men. And when you stated, you hit it right on the head. It is the exposure, because a lot of times our young men do not feel inclusive, and I think that's one of the problems that we're also having too, Darwin, is the fact that if they feel that they're out there and nobody's looking at them and nobody's considering them and nobody's getting them involved, and just like Devin stated, if I can express some of the things that is challenging me, or questions that I can have answer, then how do I move forward? How do I go forward with things? And so I think these are such important issues that we have to look at. And the event up at Mumford High School, I think, is very prominent, and I think it's something where all of the Divine Nine fraternities need to be there, as well as the sororities, to show people and show these young people what things is really all about. It's not just that we are in a fraternity, we're in a sorority. It is the fact that we are looking at things that, how can we help you? How can we reach out?
But what do you think, gentlemen? Now you mentioned, Mr. Watson, about we need to listen. We as the elder statespeople need to listen to our young people and what some of the things that they're dealing with as they get ready to go to school, when they come back home. We know that issues are that, number one, you've got young men that are almost like the head of households when it comes to the males.
Yes, sir.
At the age of 10, 11, and 12, because a lot of times their mothers may be working 2 jobs or even 3 jobs.
Yes, sir.
And that 10-year-old or that 11 or 12-year-old has to go and make certain that little brother, little sister is taken care of, fed in some cases, and they're having to grow up real fast.
Yes, sir.
Is what it's boiling out to. I thought about some things that people said about Michael Jackson, that he didn't have a childhood, and that's one of the reasons why when you saw him in his Neverland, I think he had that with all those animals and amusement rides and things like that. That was because he didn't really have the childhood that he probably needed to have. But at the same time, what are some of the things then that you see besides the listening? What else can we do? Because young men are very, very vulnerable to a lot of things that are out here. You see young men that may get caught up with gangs. You see young men that may get caught up in the drug trade. You see young men that may see how the treatment that their mother received, and in some cases verbally or physically, from their fathers. Now they have to decipher all this. And then we know that it's hard for a woman to teach a man how to be a man, but it's easier for a man to teach a man how to be a man and how to treat women and how to treat others in society, because that's the same way that they would want to be treated. But what do you think in terms of, say, are some of the ills that you see that some of these young men are dealing with in the streets? Because that's the thing. We want to give some resources to take men from the streets to the suites. But the other thing we want to do too is stop that school to prison pipeline. Because that's one of the things that's the hardest part with a lot of young men. What is attractive to them and what should be told should not, it might look attractive, but it's not what you need to do.
You said something that was very key. And when we really dive into the being parentified, as it's commonly referred to, at a very young age, and then we have to realize and first acknowledge, and for so long in our communities, we didn't want to acknowledge the trauma that truly exists and how deeply it's rooted. Mm-hmm. This is generational, right? We know the things that have happened. We don't necessarily have to go down the history course, right? But we understand, and I think we are now, and I believe in my heart as a generation, getting to a point where we're acknowledging it, where I can sit at a table with my friends, and, as someone in their 30s now, and say, we go to therapy. Mm-hmm. We talk about things,
yes,
right? But this is after 20-something plus years of living, being told that you're going to be okay. Yeah. It won't last, right? Being invalidated. So when I talk about listening, I don't mean just to what they say, right? But I mean listening to what the story actually is as a whole when we talk about it, identifying. Because out here, it is real. Every household is not a two-parent household, right? And that's not on one side or the other. There's statistics and things that we see that may show it leaning in one direction or another, unfortunately, in our communities, right? But the absence of both of those is going to play an emotional role, especially on our young men, but our young women as well, yes, right? Yes. Which the power of influence, right? The effects that our young women have on our young men. All these things are cyclical, right? Mm-hmm. So we can address linear, what these young men may be dealing with, identity crisis, trying to fit in, imposter syndromes, personal identity crises. They're dealing with mentals. They're dealing with having to raise themselves while trying to provide and take care of, yes, and manage households. We're dealing with, again, traumatic experiences from a maternal perspective, where these young men are being put in positions essentially to be the man, and the shoulder to lean on, yes, right, because of things that happen that's neither the maternal's responsibility but their maternal or paternal responsibility, right? So I think it's a really deeply rooted issue, but we got to sit down and have these conversations. But the biggest thing is people don't know don't care what we know until they know that we care. Right. If we're not showing up for these people. I've had a chance to work in nonprofit work for a little bit, and I am grateful for every dollar that's given. But the one thing as a program leader that I tell the mentors in the program that I'm with now is I am more grateful for your time. Right? Because again, money will not fix how I feel, right? And these young people want to see people who are going to constantly show up, not when it's convenient, not when it fits them, but when they need them, with expecting nothing in return, willing to celebrate. And it is mountains how far the trajectory of their life goes when they have at least 3 to 4 people in their life who truly care that they can identify with.
Yes. Darwin, you hit on 3 points that really affect our young black men. And I'm going to hit on each one of them. And from our perspective from law enforcement, as well as my perspective from the mental health. You said they get involved with gangs. Well, a lot of times gangs is that family structure that they feel that they can belong to. It is part of them, and it helps them. And it does not necessarily mean that they want to be a part of this. the ventures that these gangs get involved with, but they want to be a part of something, somebody, some organization that accepts them. And that's what's happening. Your second thing, you talked about the drug trade. As you stated, there's young men out here who are raising their families. They're seeing their mothers working 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet. So they say, well, I'm going to get into the drug trade so mom don't have to go through that, and I don't have to live like this. So I'm gonna get into the drug trade. And the other thing that they don't look at, and I know you can relate to this, is that if I make it tomorrow, fine. If I don't, whatever. And so these are the other issues and the things that we have. And then the third thing you talked about was they're seeing their mother being abused by whether it's their father or whether it's a boyfriend or whatever. So then that's that psychological mindset to say either this is the way you treat women, or it is something where I do not want to treat my significant other, I'll say it like that, in this manner. But a lot of times it's like, this mindset is like, okay, I done seen this, and as Devon stated, it's a generational thing. I done seen so much of this. This must be the way it's done. And these are the things that we have to change, and the idealisms that we have to have them separate from so they can see. And I just want to say one more thing. There was always men, whether the man was, when I was coming up, whether the man was in the household, you always had the man down the street, you always had the uncle, you always had somebody to say, look boy, this ain't the way you do things. You got to go and do it like this. And so these are the things that I think the three of us, we look at, and this is what we say, this is what we need to do and reach out with.
So, Roy, you mentioned about with the gangs, and sometimes the thing is that, do you find that peer pressure is something that leads some of the people to gangs?
Yes, sir.
Or in some cases, I've counseled in schools before, and sometimes I've seen young men try and show out, try and make folks laugh in their own intimidable way. And in some cases, they're doing things to get attention. And do you think that that's one of the things that Mr. Watson, Mr. McAllister, that you see that might be an issue that young men have, not trying to show off in front of the girls that they're trying to get attention from, but in the same case, even like with the teachers, where they may show out in the schools to their teachers. And the teachers aren't rewarding bad behavior, they reward good behavior. But in the schools, which is what was going on at Mumford, that's where the issue was at. Somebody that might be just trying to get attention, because it seems like the person that shows up and shows out the most is the one that gets more attention than the person that's the scholar that gets all A's. And sometimes people are just trying to get attention. That's what the gangs do. Like you said, the gangs give them that attention. But it's the sad part, what they have to do to get the initiation into some of the gangs. The
other side to that also is, if I do this, then people won't really look at me to who I really am.
That's a good point.
That's the other issue also, because
and I hate to interrupt you on that, but that's a great point, because you find some young men, they may not be as smart as other young men may be.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They may not be as innovative as other young men may be.
Yes, sir.
But they disarm the person and that's looking at them and thinking, okay, well, but he's a smart person, or he's this, or he's innovative, he's ingenious when it comes to that. So you raise a great point when it comes to that part, Roy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Why do we expect them to be from so many levels? We're talking about underdeveloped, not even halfway through their mental brain development yet. Our young men have no idea who they are.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
we've gotten to a society and a world where everything is at our fingertips, and we see the good more than we see the bad. Now, there's a lot of bad out there. That's not what I mean. But I'm talking about when we look at what's in our young people's faces all the time.
Yes, sir.
Right? It's going to be anything that's fly, fancy, and lavish without any work associated with it. So all I'm seeing is the end result. Again, I'm not seeing 10 black men on my street waking up every day going to work. I'm scrolling Instagram and somebody's driving a Bentley. Somebody has a Rolls Royce. They got that big house in the suburbs, right?
Yes, sir.
And as individuals, we're entitled to all the things that we want in life, but things affect our communities that change the trajectory of what they see. right? So we talk about that acting out. We talk about that attention. Yes, everybody wants attention, right? How to get it, what's rewarded, who is modeling that. And that's not to say that there are a plethora of strong, successful men in our communities, right? That doesn't mean we don't need more, right? That doesn't mean that, again, we all don't need to put our hands on a few more, right? In terms of their minds, right? Being able to impact their lives and having conversations, right? Like you said, down the street, neighborhood. I don't have to scold you, right? To be able to just have a conversation or educate or provide opportunity to that individual. So yes, they're acting out. They're trying to figure out who they are, what their identity are. We need more programming in terms of youth development. It's a bigger issue, right? That calls for resources, that calls for tools, that calls for manpower, right? But we need people to commit their time to show these young men who they can be, and constantly encourage them, because if you talk to most of them in a one-on-one level, they have dreams, ambitions, and goals. They just don't see a road to how it's achievable through the common means of how the system has been structured currently. Right? They want it, right? They're lofty. I talk to them all the time, right? They just don't see it as possible. They look around them and they see what's currently going on, but they're not going to understand the economic development that's happening in certain corridors or in certain parts of the city, and how it's a trickle-down effect and things take time. They see what's in front of me now and what does opportunity look like, right? Because they're not at the point where most of us adults who see the progress happening in the city, who knows from which we came to where we're going, they're not there. They're saying, what does my neighborhood look like? It's an empty house right here. It's an empty house right here. I'm walking here, right? I can't get access to X, Y, and Z that I need for me, right? So there's some things we got to fix in that regard, right? And we gotta listen to them and what they want, and then help them chart that roadmap and hold them accountable to it. They are grateful for it.
Yes, sir. I'm looking down at my notebook here, and I happen to notice it says Youth Move Detroit. And if we do not give them the tools to move Detroit, how are they going to? And I mean, Devin, you just hit it, and Darwin, you're stating it. If we don't put these programs and tools and give them that exposure and put that in place, how do we expect for them to move Detroit or move the state of Michigan or move this nation forward? And so these are the things and the questions that must be addressed in order for our youth to move forward. And when I say youth, I'm also talking about our males, because and Darwin, you and I were speaking of this. When I was in junior high, I had my draft teacher was a male, my music teacher was a male, my civics teacher was a male. I had all these male teachers, and then when I went to high school, it kind of changed. My chemistry teacher was a female, my English teacher was a female, my Spanish teacher was a female, and so a lot of this is, as Devin has stated, we have to put that exposure to say, look, there is a male who can teach you another language. There is a male that can teach you how to draft. There is a male that can teach you how to, the English that is necessary for you. And these are the things that, as you stated, we must expose them to. And, I think that event at Mumford is outstanding. I think the event we're getting ready to have the King's March tomorrow. No King's March. Thank you so much. No King's March tomorrow. These are the things that get them out there, get them exposure, say, this is how we do things, And so that's I just had to express that.
Well, I appreciate that. We got to take another break. So as soon as we come back, we're going to bring two ladies on to address some of the things that they see in a household, and especially a household that may not be a household that has a male and a female as the head of the households. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
If you enjoyed the music, the talk, and the vibe right here on WHPR, we need your support. Help us keep independent radio alive by sending a Cash App donation of whatever you can to $WHPR TV Radio. Every dollar makes a difference. That's $WHPR TV Radio. Support the station that supports you.
justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Matter. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself.
.313watkins.com. Streaming on Roku.
WGPR Detroit HD3.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit.
And welcome back. You're watching a very special edition of Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and we are joined by two ladies that are very much movers and shakers in the communities that they live in. And to give you Ms. Summer Crawford Moore, who we had on the first segment, and now we are joined by Crystal LaSorsa. I always have to make sure I say that right.
It's okay.
You know, I know everybody when they see the name, they say La Rosa, but then it's like LaSorsa.
Yes.
So everybody put that into your mindset. It's LaSorsa. But Crystal LaSorsa, thank you and welcome to Truth to Power today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And so, yes, my name is Crystal LaSorsa. And I'll give a background about myself. So I grew up off of Joy Road, Exit 9. And I graduated from McKenzie High School, and I am product of DPSCD. So I have 3 daughters as well, and on Joy Road is where I met my lifelong love, Jason LaSorsa, who is the founding and executive director for a national organization. I'm sorry, not a founder, but an executive director for a national organization. And I heard the conversation as far as boys and how we're raising boys. And I know that it's hard for individuals to see that when they look at my husband at this point in his life, that, you know, he grew up on right off of Joy Road. And, you know, he was this child that actually spent almost 11 years in prison. And so, you know, due to the war on drugs. And so, you know, it's just these conversations are had continuously with us, and people are looking at the family that we've built, and just having 3 daughters. My oldest graduated valedictorian from the school at Marygrove, and I have a senior this year that graduates, an honor senior. And last month, if you watched WDIV, she actually won the $25,000 Black Excellence Scholarship. It was a poetry slam. So I've been excited about that. Thank you. And I also have a small little daughter. She is 10, my big personality, and she wins first place in gymnastics meets, and she swims like a little fish, so I always have to shout her out as well. And so I'm a nonprofit leader and a community organizer. And so we've partnered with MDHHS, and we've also partnered with U of M and SimQuick and United Way, and we advance healthy births, and just helping to bring our community to a point where we can be just extremely proud of, and just knowing that strong families build strong communities. And so we've been advocating for fathers in this space, and we've been hosting young boys and hearing their stories, and trying to support them in any ways that we can, because just thinking about my husband growing up, realizing that it's not just programs that help our kids. They need to actually see you in person. They need to actually see that you actually care. And we also co-own Page's Bookshop right off of Grand River. And so that is youth-led, and my daughters are involved in that space as well. And so this is just the work that we've been doing. And to further this work, I'm also running for state rep for District 4 as well, to elevate the platform and to continue just to uplift and build Detroit.
So if somebody, I'm going to just ask you this, if somebody just real quick want to get to know more about who Crystal LaSosa is there a webpage or is there an email address or a phone number where they can get more information about who you are, your husband, and also about your candidacy for state rep?
Yes, there is. Thank you for that. So you can reach Larsosa, LARSOSA, numeric 4, Michigan.com. And I can also be reached at larsosa4rep@gmail.com. So I would love to hear from you all, whatever it is to help build our city, to continue to uplift everything that we've been doing here. You know, just being born and raised here, this is my home. And so running for office was not something that I ever aspired to do, even though this is my second time. The first time I was tricked, and I'll talk to you about that another time. But
because your husband also ran for office.
Yes.
He
So
ran for mayor, didn't he?
yes. So my husband. So that was my idea. Okay, I'll say a little bit. So my husband ran for mayor because I said you should run for mayor. So after that conversation, he was like, you know what? He came back home with petitions, and he was like, hey, I pulled you some petitions for city council. So, and I was like, you know what? I'll do it. But so that was what was that in 2001? But now where we are here, 2026, I have been getting phone calls from family and friends, and they were like, hey, you know, the district is Northwest Detroit. It stretches from 6 Mile to Warren. So, and then that's some of Rouge Park to Wyoming. And they were like, yeah, so you got Joy Road, you got West Chicago, you got Plymouth, you got Finkel, Puritan. And they were like, you and Jason grew up off Joy Road. You know, a lot of us are still here. You should run for this seat. My initial reaction was, no, I'm not running for the seat. Like, I did run before, and it's a lot, you know. And I was like, I don't know, I have to flip my world upside down. And after so many phone calls, I decided to pray, and I said, you know what, Lord, maybe this is something that you are calling me to do, and maybe I just don't see it. And so I decided to do a 3-day water fast. And I kept telling everybody, you know, the path has to be clear for me to run because we have so many things going on as well as our daughters. And I didn't know what that would look like. And I started my 3-day fast, and it was breakfast, lunch, dinner. You know, I'm hungry by the end of the day. And I said, you know what, maybe not. You know, I haven't heard anything from God. And so maybe this is not for me. And I tell everybody, I kid you not, at 8:30 that night, my now campaign manager, Chantel Watkins, she literally texted me, and it gives me chills to this day. She texted me a screenshot from WDIV stating that Karen Woodsett was not running for re-election. And so I just was like, okay, Lord, I'm here. Here I am. And so that's been my journey.
Well, see, and that was the thing that I just want to let our viewers know, that we here at WHPR, we invite candidates to come on the show. So it's not like we're endorsing a particular person. We want to give all candidates an opportunity to come on. So anyone that is running in that district for state rep, you know, we put out the invitation to, you know, to you that you can come on our Truth to Power show. And you can just contact us through the station, and we can give you an opportunity to go and hear your voice, you know, as well. But I want to ask you both real quick, the healing process. You have 3 daughters. Summer, how many children do you have in your family?
I have 2.
And they are?
My son is 27, and my daughter is 21.
Wow.
Some great genes in your family.
Right.
I mean, I look at you and I think that they probably would have saying that they're their mother, but saying that you might be their older sister or somebody.
Black don't crack.
But that was the same thing, just like when we had Mr. Watkins on. Mr. Watkins was like, okay, you look like you could be in your 20s. But the thing is, what do you see? Because your sons could have her daughters in their lives.
Yes.
what would you say to young men, especially to get them to be on the right path as to what you would expect, how your sons would treat women that they come in contact with?
So I would say, first of all, it starts at home. We need, as women, to speak life into our children. And I worked in the school system, K through 8, also with a lot of high schoolers for several years. And what I would say was that when I say speak life into your children, there's nothing more hurtful than sitting on side of a desk and talking to some of the young men, and they say, my mother never said good morning to me. My mother hollered at me from when I got up. I didn't even see my mother this morning because she had to go to work. And then when I come home, or when she's come home from work, I'm at work myself. I didn't even see my mother before I went to bed. So there is, and there's a sense of abandonment there. Mm-hmm. And then on the weekends, when mothers have errands, perhaps beautification appointments, at what point in time are you spending time with your children? How many hours a week? That's something, it's a barrier, and it's a system, a systemic issue that's going on. And it starts at home. And so a lot of the healing, I'm a big fan of mental health. But we also have our mothers, some of them who say, shut up and stop and don't cry. You're not allowed to cry. So young men are not allowed to express or show their emotion. And they're broken down even before they can speak. And so it becomes hurtful to see, watch, and to listen to.
Well, I think that's one of the things when you set the topic about talking to young men about how they should treat women, but also how they should treat others, especially like in the schools. There's a lot of young men in the schools that don't respect authority.
Yes.
We had Roy McAllister on, who was a inspector with the police department, and that's a question that I want to address to Roy too, in terms of like when young men encounter police officers or somebody in law enforcement, like a sheriff or somebody like that, how should they react? How should they, respect them? I see a lot of teachers now that are still saying from old school, call me Ms. Watson, call me Mr. Griffin, call me, Ms. McAllister, or, whatever the case may be. But there are some teachers that do let the children in their classrooms call them by their first name.
Oh, yes.
And is that helpful? I mean, or is that harmful, especially when you got, just the same thing, even like with the police officers, if somebody in law enforcement, you see a badge that's got their name on it, but you don't call them by the first name. You call them by their sergeant, inspector, lieutenant, whatever their title is. You call them by their last name.
So I know I was going to have an opportunity to talk to Crystal about this. I was talking to a few young men, and I just wanted to do a just a little overview of check in and say, hey, what do you refer to your mother as? And I heard, besides mom, mommy, and OG, what's up, my baby? What's up? A couple other, my lady, my girl, big mama, and Mom Dukes. Right there, when I hear it, I cringe. But when I hear young men refer to their mothers by the first name, I know that there are a lot of Madeers and great grandmothers that roll over in their grave just want to get out and just slap a couple of them in their mouth, because the disrespect is real and it's allowed and it's tolerated. And what happens at that point in time, not only do we see things on social media, there's a breakdown. There's a communication breakdown. So, Crystal, what other slang words have you heard be referred to as a mother, and how does that make you feel?
I've been hearing the same language that you've been hearing as well. And even to piggyback off of the question with Darwin, I think that when we look into the school system, we see about 80% of the staff are women, right? And so I think that there's a gender difference. And so, you know, most of them are coming from not two-parent households, I should say. And so when boys are stepping into school, I think that they would prefer more male leadership because it's, hey, this person is like me. But I know that that's something that we're lacking in our community. And so most of the men that I know that I've had encounters with and just programs that we have a fatherhood program as well through an organization that I lead. And my husband is speaking with boys and men. And he's talking to them and he's like, oh, you know, they lead into this space, you know, they're crying and, you know, they're letting us know their problems. And they're like, you know, we need more of this. We need more community, Black community, where we're all, you know, men are here together. We're listening to each other. We need to hear leadership. We need to see men that are empowered. You know, we need to, you know, we feel it helps us to feel motivated. We need you all to speak life into us. And I think that even just with the gender differences, the men are hearing and the boys are hearing other men, you know, maybe disrespect a female, and they think that, you know, because of maybe the music we're listening to, that it's okay, but it's not okay. And we have to strengthen our community because they are our future leaders.
Mm-hmm. I have a question also for Crystal. You just said something very important, speaking with. And I know that with a lot of the males in the who work in the school systems, who are in authority, speaking with versus speaking to versus speaking at. A lot of times we hear, when we see males encountering other males, and I used to be in the hallways, and I hear with the principals, some of the male principals, hey, get to class. It's always yelling. It's the tone, which is an agitator, because the kids just left home and they were yelled at by their mom. They were yelled at by the father, and then they get to school and they're yelled at again. Get to class, hurry up, you only have 4 minutes. And then those 4 minutes or 5 minutes is threatened by, you're going to get detention. You're going to get suspended. So it's already a breakdown of, and it's also bringing up some trauma within our young children. How do you feel about that? What have you seen in your work, especially being in the community like myself?
So I think that coming into that space with one of, especially I can say this from experience, in our workshop, my husband is making sure that he's having a safe space for boys, letting them know, and men, letting them know this is a safe space. We're here to talk, you know, like what's going on with you. Oftentimes, I have a program that runs after his, and I'm knocking on the door like, are you all done? And he's like, no, babe, like you know how I am. I have to get through every single male because I need to hear from them and I need them to know that this is a safe space. And so I think that we all react from yelling, you know, like anxiously, and, you know, none of us wants to be yelled at. But I think that if we're calm, if boys know that we actually care and we show up, then they will, you know, it will help them to see that, okay, this is the community for me.
I think another thing that I see is that our young men in the household are forced to be men at an early age. I've seen it to where young men as young as 8 up to 13, they hear something outside and their mother's like, get up and go check and see what's going on outside. Go and check and see who's at the door. They're being thrusted into adulthood at such early ages now. And it's sad because the graduation rate, though it's higher in some cities and and some schools it's low in others, because generally around 10th grade, the focus no longer becomes on education. It comes on, I need to help my mom pay this bill. I need to help make sure my sisters and brothers have food in the house. So they're leaving home early to start working instead of really focusing on their education, and they're being a provider. That's scary times.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting as you said that too, because especially when you have young men that have to be the provider when they don't have a childhood to be able to play games, play baseball or play basketball. And some young men think that the only way out of the neighborhood is to just have an athletic ability, as opposed to having the intellect to be able to go and run a business or even work for a business owner until they can go off and start their own business. But the other thing is that one of the things that I see that's hurting with a lot of young men, and some young women, but more so with young men, they're not thinking about the long-term effects of the things that they do.
Right.
If they do something today, they may think, fine, if y'all take me out, y'all take me out. But it's not like they want to have the life that their ancestors had. They're thinking, okay, fine, if I do something wrong and I get caught or I get convicted and I go to jail, I mean, it just happens. And they're not concerned about the long-term effect and how if you get incarcerated, that affects mom, that affects dad, that affects your brothers and sisters, that affects other people in your community, for that fact. And at the same time, too, when you do something like striking a teacher or when you berate a teacher, there's consequences that come. And if that's put in your school record, that may go and come back to haunt you should you realize, okay, I shouldn't have said that. But now when you try to go into college, they may look at your transcript and may look at your, any of the activity that you did while you were in school and see, oh, wait a minute, this person was suspended or was expelled because they called the teacher a bad name or they did something to the teacher. And they're not, and that's what young men and young women need to think about, the long-term consequences. Because even if you go and you get someone pregnant, you got a lifetime that you got to spend with that child at that point. You may not get along with the mother, but that's still your offspring. And that's what some men need to really think about, the long-term consequences of the actions that they take today. Because sometimes a moment of anger can result in a lifetime of regret.
Yeah.
All right.
So we got to take a quick break, but I just want you to just think about that, and then depending on how much more time we have left after this last segment, that we might be able to kind of delve into something else, that you might want to bring up. But I appreciate you ladies for coming on the show with us today.
Thank you.
Crystal, we wish you the best of luck when it comes down to your candidacy, and Summer, we'll definitely make certain that we bring you back on again to continue about this resource fair as
Thank
well.
you.
All right, we got to take a quick break. You're watching Truth to Power. I'm your host. I'm with candidate for state rep, Crystal Larsosa, and pretty much like all around does everything with the city of Detroit, as well as she's in Washington, D.C. and other places as well. Summer Crawford Moore. We'll be right back.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. If you're behind on your property taxes, we have programs to help. You don't have to lose your house, and you don't have to pay all at once. This summer, our mobile unit will be visiting Wayne County communities to help make it easier to start a payment plan and keep your property. Go online or call to find the plan that's right for you and where you can get help from our mobile unit. The last thing I want is for anyone to lose their property to foreclosure. Make your payments every month and keep your property.
Feel good about your future with tuition-free programs at Wayne County Community College District. Whether you want to be in healthcare, computer science, the culinary arts, digital media, or robotics and automation for the next generation of vehicles, WCCCD has you covered. A full range of programs to achieve your goals, fit your schedule, and give you all the support you need to be successful. All of it tuition-free. Now there's something to feel good about. Register today at wcccd.edu.
Every Monday through Friday from 12 noon to 3 p.m., it's the Tavis Smiley Show on WHPR TV and Radio 15.2. Also seen on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, iPhone, and Android. That's the Tavis Smiley Show on WHPR TV and Radio. Download the WHPR TV app for iOS, Android, and Roku. The Tavis Smiley Show, distributed by RJ Watkins Studios.
Clean up on aisle 5. Sounds like my life right now. Just one big mess.
What's going on?
It's my property taxes.
What?
I am behind and I am so worried that I'm going to lose my house. I can pay some of it, but I can't pay it all at once.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm Eric Sabri, the Wayne County Treasurer. The last thing I want is for anyone to lose their property to tax foreclosure. We have assistance programs to help.
For more information, go to treasurer.waynecounty.com.
We're here to help.
Justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Mattered. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself.
The show that you know and love is moving to a new day, place, and time. Packed with real stories and issues, On the Floor is now airing every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. With the capable and incomparable host, Dr. Tara Defoe, dig into real advice and receive restoration for your soul. It's a new time and place, so get ready to be informed and get motivated. On the Floor with Dr. Tara Defoe every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Tired of seeing young black men shooting at each other in this community, in this nation. I don't understand it. I grew up in a time when people wore white robes and they shot at black people. And now we see young black men wearing black hoodies shooting at black men and doing a much more effective job than the Klan ever thought about doing. I'm sick of it. Of course, the only thing I can do is shout it from here. No one seems to listen.
We're listening. You're watching Detroit's own WHPR TV. Detroit Live. It's up to us to make a difference.
The Cash Talks experience amplifies the importance of courage, willingness, and purpose to offer you a unique look into stories and testimonies that inspire and motivate you. No matter the difficulties you face, to keep moving forward. It is a privilege and honor to bring strong voices from our community to your viewing and exercise our sincerest commitment to create conversations that are impactful. We look forward to gracing you with the Cash Talks experience.
Watch Cash Talk with Rachel on WHPR TV 15.2, 313watkins.com, or WHPRTV.com. Thursday at 7 p.m.
If you enjoyed the music, the talk, and the vibe right here on WHPR, we need your support. Help us keep independent radio alive by sending a Cash App donation of whatever you can to $WHPR TV Radio. Every dollar makes a difference. That's $WHPR TV Radio. Support the station that supports you.
All media platforms are engaged.
Copy.
Get ready to launch your show or product.
Periscope ready. We're 5x5 ready to launch. Copy that.
Trend worldwide across all major platforms.
Ignition. 3, 2, 1.
The world is waiting. Watkins Broadcasting. More than just TV.
313watkins.com. Streaming on Roku.
Good morning again. Looking at the time, I'm like, wait a minute, half an hour before it gets to be 12 o'clock. But you're watching a special edition of Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and we have been talking about the village and how the village, especially with the young men, needs to be healed, but we need to embrace, we need to wrap our arms around the young men and keep a hedge of protection and a mantle of guidance over them. So I brought back Devon and Summer back to kind of do a little wrap up. We know that this subject cannot be totally embraced within just this time that Truth to Power is on, but we want to try and see if we can identify some of the obstacles that are preventing some of these young men from being able to grow up to be men in society, because of sometimes that school to prison pipeline that sometimes affects them. But Devon, Summer, let's kind of do a little something in terms of I'm going to ask you primarily, what do you think are some of the solutions that you see in the households that moms and dads can do with their young men or their young women in the household, where some people may deem them incorrigible? And we talked a little bit about the mental health facets of what's going on. But what do you see? I'll ask you, Devon, first. What do you see some of the things that you would recommend to a frustrated female in the household, be it a grandmother, be it a mom? And that's one other topic we want to talk about too. You have, in some cases, grandparents that thought that they were going to be empty nesters. Mm-hmm. And then they, in turn, now can't go do things that they wanted to do because they were raising children. Now here they're raising their child's children as well. So is that fair to especially a lot of mothers that put the grandparents and let the kids go to see, pretty much like raised by the grandparent? And then lastly, another topic. Some people think about, when it comes down to young people, to teach them, like especially the young men or the young ladies, how to be ladylike or how to be a gentleman. And sometimes you find that the teachers are teaching them etiquette, teaching them about being a gentleman, teaching them about opening the door for a female, how to go and make certain that a woman's chair is pulled out when they're getting ready to sit down, making certain, as it said in, I forgot the movie, where it said, the one way that you can tell if a man loves you is if they save you the last piece of chicken. So what do you think about that?
So from a macro, one of the things that you addressed, to kind of start with that first topic, the biggest thing, in my opinion, and I've seen it through practice, again, none of us are going to be perfect parents, none of us are going to be perfect, but I've seen is the ability to breathe life through words. I think we grotesquely underestimate as a community and culture how much power our words truly have. From simple things to our ability to not have the patience due to all of the adult worldly problems that we're constantly dealing with, that we don't realize the loudest and strongest voice that our young children, young adults can hear is our own voice, right? So our ability to manage our own tone, our own traumas, and a lot of times, again, that's where it comes from. It's what mom, dad may have done to me. It's what grandma and grandpa did to me back in the old school. I grew up with the best of both worlds here, Darwin, right? I see the benefits in all different styles, right? But there's no young person who ever grows up and says, my parent loved me too much. That says that they listened to me and I hated it. That I wasn't there, that that toxicity, especially, I think Ms. Summers said it earlier, first thing in the morning, their day has to start on a positive, right? We have to breathe life into these young people. In terms of the grandparents stepping up, is it fair? Is it unfair? It's circumstances, right? I think at the end of the day, the ownership has to be on the adult that's stepping into those roles to say it's not this child's fault, right? And at the end of the day, what's the best thing for this young person? What do I owe them, or what does the world owe them that I can control that I have to give them, right? And I think that's in all facets and how we're dealing with it. We put adult frustrations on youth problems, and we have to learn to distinguish and separate the two to allow these young people a chance to just be young people, to mess up, to make mistakes, to do it in a safe and comforting environment, and to be loved and nurtured through it, even when we know what the outcome is going to be, unless it's going to be dangerous or land them in incarceration or put their life in jeopardy. But again, yelling at them because they didn't do the dishes is not going to make them do the dishes any better, right? But helping them understand the why behind the habit you're looking to create, talking to them like they are people with brains and they can process and have emotions, and realizing they're just little humans that haven't been here as long as we have, right? And I think it goes a long way in their development because it builds a confidence, right? I stand proud as a HBCU graduate. One of the most important things they teach us is who we are as black men in Morehouse and how to walk in that purpose, right? And in my household, when I go home, I want to make sure my children know who they are, right? And I don't mean what they're going to become, but what their principles are, what they're grounded in, what they stand for, and that comes through words.
And you're exactly right. There's nothing more than seeing a young person who's able to hold their head up high versus those who just feel like they have been beat down. You see them with their head hung low, and it's like, how can we help to speak life back into them? And I think about our grandparents and our big daddies and our Madirs, and I trust me, my great grandmother was living when I was coming up. And there were value and lessons to just be in the kitchen, learning things, or to just watching my grandfather say, hey, young man, come on out here and learn something. Those days have been missed. That connectivity. My father has 4 girls, and I'm the oldest of the 4 girls. And it's crazy because sometimes when I try to talk to him, it may go over his ear, but he knows how to work on a car like old school, take it out the box and he'll work on it. And sometimes if I see him under a car and I have some things like father, daughter to talk to, he'll be like, hand me that wrench. And then we start talking, hand me the screwdriver, and, come on, change his wheel. But I realized that we had to learn a different way of listening, or him listening to us, my sisters and I. And he wasn't yelling, but he was engaged in his own way. So we learned to meet him where he was, and he also learned to meet us where we are. So it has to be some type of learning one another. I think with our youth, they're going through so much. They have interests, talents that go suppressed because of time. I was talking to a family relative who wants to put their child in sports. And the father was like, I don't have time for that. And I looked over and said, why? Oh, because, I have other things to do. And I'm like, well, isn't her dreams or his dreams just as important or important? They thought about it like, oh, wow, I didn't think about it like that. I'm like, yes. I also think about a movie. I was talking to Mr. Darwin about back in the days called Coming to America, and there was pride. There was a pride about what you do. And there was a scene, I believe, with McDowell's when the gentleman was saying, I was on the fries, and he was happy about moving up to the next stage, which was probably hamburgers and then possibly becoming a cashier. That is no longer there because our youth no longer have something to look forward to. They don't have anything to work towards. Going back to the grandparents, I remember coming up, we had a quarter. Did our little chores and You know, it was like a quarter or $1. You go to the penny candy store and you were happy. You know, you worked hard and you earned, you know, what you worked hard for, and you took pride in it. Whereas now, parents are just giving. Cell phones, clothes, outfits. Sometimes things are a prom or coming up, $2,000 proms, send-offs, and it could be used towards books, towards investing into their children. So there's a lot that has been broken down systemically across the board. And I know you mentioned Mumford High School earlier. Hopefully this is an opportunity, not only at Mumford High School, but across the city of Detroit and other communities, where we can start to look at the foundation and the basics of what made families, because all I know is that it takes a village, and we need our village.
Well, see, one thing you both touch upon is the listening part. But one of the things that I think that happens in households today is that this is in the household.
Oh, yes.
And families sit down at the dinner table compared to Mr. Watson, Ms. Moore, Ms. Moore Crawford, or Crawford Moore, I'm sorry, that they're not thinking about, there's no engagement, there's no communication, there's no conversation when it comes down to sitting at the dinner table. Some people don't even eat together. I mean, we, in my household, we broke bread together, versus this is usually in front of somebody's face or up to their ear, and there's no conversation. And I've seen a lot, and then social media is another that tends to be, you know, when I was growing up, we had some of the video games, but now you got everything on this phone. You can look up any information. You don't have to pick up a book to do anything. And then even in church, you had Bibles that were on the pews in front of you. Now you resort to these. And the thing is, it's just that everybody seems to be so attached to their phones that they may even look for information on the phones to help guide them through whatever trauma that they may be going through and the anxieties that they're going through on a daily basis. So I think the thing is that one of the things that I just see is that the phones there needs to be a time that phones are put down and conversations are put out. And that's what I think more young people need to see. Instead of them not wanting to go and ask mom, I got a question about such and such, or ask dad a question about, they're resorting to the phones as opposed to having the conversation. They're calling a friend. And sometimes their peers can't answer these kind of questions that a 13-year-old may have that needs to talk to somebody twice his age. And the same thing even that we were talking about in the schools. You got a lot of young people that don't see more men in schools. They only see men usually in these different capacities. As a teacher, a gym teacher, or coach. You see them as a security guard. Or you're seeing them as a maintenance person. Are these the people that you want to go and run to and say, I'm having a problem at home with my mom or my dad, or I'm thinking about skipping school, or I don't think that I can get a good job once I graduate? And just like, you know, it was mentioned before about State Rep Tyrone Carter taking the people out for the HBCU tour, and I commend him for that. And then the same thing, you being a Morehouse graduate, you see a lot of the young men that were there at Morehouse, and look at how fashionable they dress, and how they communicate, you know, and helping a lady down off the platform that we're on, you know, at this, you know,
Chivalry.
at the show. And that's where chivalry is there, and it should still be there. And I think if more men implemented that, the society would be a whole lot different.
I definitely agree with you on that, Mr. Watson. We were in the same mentorship program, and chivalry was something that was number one. Hold the door open, you know. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. You know, remove your hats when you go into the building, and it made a difference because some of the young ladies were not used to that. They were like, "You held the door open for me," but then some of the young ladies that walk through those doors, they don't say thank you. I heard that from a lot of the young men.
Good
They
point.
didn't. At least they could have said thank you to me.
Good point.
But
And then the same thing too. It's just like when you're getting out of a car.
Yes.
and you got a woman on the passenger side.
Oh.
Do you get out the male that's driving and go around and open the door for the female? Or do you let her get out the car on her own? Or when they're getting into the car, do you open her door first before you go into the driver's side?
I think a lot of people don't realize most of this stuff, because it's so common to a lot of people, that it's not common to most people, right? Because knowing how you should engage yourself as a young person, and then also knowing how to receive something that is foreign, right? I see young ladies all the time like, no, I got it, I can do it myself. That's a trigger, that's a response to how they have to handle things a certain way. Young men not doing things based on the visibility of what's been seen, right? What they don't know, what they do know, what those differences are. A lot of it's about the time, again, to educate and help them understand, and then reinforce and reap the benefits of the feelings of doing it. Feels great when you get that gracious thank you, right? It feels great to know that you were able to make somebody feel better because you were gracious, right? All these are things that to a lot on a generational level seem like they would be second nature, right? But if they're foreign because, you know, grandma didn't do it for granddad in this family lineage, right? So brothers, uncles, we don't see it. When it's told, it's like, why would I do that, right? Versus taking the time to have that conversation. For some reason, there's this notion that asking questions is a bad thing, right? And I will be transparent, right? And even in my own parenting style, it took me a while to realize that it's safe, healthy, and okay for my children to question things that I say. Because otherwise, they're just going to do what they're told the rest of their lives. I don't want that. I want to raise a free thinker. I want someone who is innovative and creative. I have to start it at home, right? And I teach them there's a way of going about it, right? It's not what you say, it is how you say it. It isn't delivery. But yet you should question everything, right, to seek understanding before you seek to be understood, right? So if we're teaching these versus because I said so, because I'm the adult, because I'm the parent, don't question me. Why not? Right? The only way that we got it is either life taught it to us or somebody told it to us. And as a parent, if our job, and when I say parent, I mean as a collective group of adults preparing the next generation, right? If we're truly going to make it easier and give them an easier, it means they don't have to go through the same struggle and hit their heads in the same places. I'm a firm believer in them hitting their heads and learning some tough lessons, right? Why do we have an issue? Is it more of our own egos and our own feelings or our own traumas about how we were parented that says don't question me, right? Or is it truly about this young person, which is at the end of the day, the next generation and the most important part of this piece?
And I'm glad you said that, because safe space is real. And questioning and getting the answers to those questions. You know, a lot of times, stay in a child's place. They're like, but I need to know why. How can a child become better if they're not allowed to ask questions? You know, when you spoke about, Mr. Griffin, about the cell phone, having it at the table, I thought about the cell phone has become a buffer between conversations that are held at the table. A lot of families, a lot of children feel antagonized. They're getting questioned at the table, like, even as adults sometimes. How many children are you going to have? Are you going to have children? Are you ever going to get married? What happened at school today? Why did you get all of these F's? And why do you have these grades? You know, it's always questioning, attacking, instead of finding solutions of why and talking to instead of talking at. We have lost that art. We need to get back to the basics. And even if there's not a table for a child to sit at, I'm pretty sure there's some backyards and some front porches and just other safe spaces. A child's, bedroom. Just say, hey, how was your day? Talk to me for a moment. Take at least 10 minutes out and say, I just wanted to do a check-in without yelling. Because the child is automatically going to say, well, I know you're going to get mad. They already anticipating, I know you're going to beat me down. So they clam up and they don't want to speak to you. And so they turn to their cell phone. They turn to their friends. So we definitely have to find other resources to reel our children back into the households and to the fray. But like I said before, it takes a village. And if you can't communicate possibly someone in your family can, or a friend can. Same message, different delivery, but proven results.
Well, let me ask you both, before we get ready to wrap up, what do you think are some of the means of discipline, or should be some of the things that if young people do act up, what are some of the means of discipline that should be administered to them?
So one of the interesting things that I've learned is, and it really depends on the age segment, right? I don't think discipline is generic across, toddler, the tween, discipline is kind of relative to where they're at. But a lot of times, have the conversation, right? Ask them. Accountability happens when you have a role in the choices you make, right? So again, I've told my boys before, hey, all right, cool, what do you think should happen in this situation if you do this? And this isn't when a problem happens. These are just in conversation, right? We could just be in the backyard one day. Hey, if you, this year in school, if you act up, what do you think some of the consequences should be, right? I want you to pick them because you picked them. So at the end of the day, I'm not enforcing anything but what you agreed to, right? And you're teaching them to make decisions about their lives. It's non-traditional, right? But again, we're going to talk through it if I don't think it's strict enough or harsh enough. You're like, okay, cool, I don't get any candy. Nah, we're going to go a little further than that, right? What do you do most of the time? I play my games. Okay, how long do you think you should lose your game if you do X, Y, Z? And you have this dialogue, so you create an accountability system because that's what the world's asking us to do. You go to license, they're asking you to obey the law, right? You go get a mortgage, you're agreeing to pay something for something. So I think that is a fundamental tool that I think if we kind of wrap our heads around, and it's going to work differently for every young person and every family, but get them involved in their own growth and development. This is the only relationship you are growing to separation. You're teaching them to be independent. So I have to include you in your independence development along the way, not just be the warden. Otherwise, I'm teaching you to be a ward.
I love that idea because my mother used to say, tell me exactly what you said. What discipline or how should you be disciplined based on your action? I even hear young people saying, "Ooh, if I was the one to do that and my peer got in trouble, then I think that my peer should get this type of punishment." Well, it goes both ways. It's a lot of lessons to be learned in that, but the important thing is the age. And just because a person is 18 doesn't mean that they're necessarily an adult. But I know that I was informing my children and some of my youth and I was telling them, I said, once you turn 18, I really can't assist you with a lot of the consequences or things that life has to offer. At that point, I can help guide, and we can also surround you with a wonderful team to help you along the way. But society helps, or they push the narrative, once you turn 18, you're an adult. And there are some young people, before they are even able to turn 18, when they're age 13, they're already making adult-like decisions. And unfortunately, those who make the wrong decisions have their records tarnished before they turn the age of 18. So.
And you bring great points. We got to get ready to wrap up in a second, but I want to get a closing comment from you, Mr. Watson, and also from you too, Ms. Crawford Moore. What are your closing comments that you'd like to make?
Thank you. Family, it takes a village. Let's talk to our children and not at our children. Let's embrace them. Let's give them the love and support that's needed. And get them mentors if needed, if you're unable to. But we are here to uplift you in the community. Lean on your community as well.
The last thing I would leave with is we all know children are our future. One day, that's going to be our doctors. They're going to be our lawyers. They're going to be the ones we turn to. They're worth the investment now. It's not an easy task. To whom much is given, much is required. They didn't ask to be here, just like neither of us did. But if we're going to, now that we know better, we have to do better.
Right.
Well, that's something too, and I appreciate you both saying that, because I think that we need to take more of a proactive stance on our young people than always being reactive to things that they do. Because if you teach a person how to fish, they can eat for a lifetime. But if you just give them a fish, daily for today. And that's one of the things that you were saying too, Mr. Watts, is that here you want to give people an opportunity to judge themselves, to be able to be accountable for themselves, and not think in terms of say that, well, I can get away with it. I can do something, I can get a pass on it. Or look at, like when I was growing up, it was so funny because I used to think that I was the oldest, just as you were. And it's like here, I felt like my younger brothers and sisters didn't get punished the way I got punished for things that I did. And it was a difference, like if I ate the last cookie when Mom told me not to eat the last cookie, save it for my father, and I still ate it, boom, I got punished for that. But that's the thing that I think a lot of people need to really realize. There is a difference, but you need to think about how, like in school, you get time out. Mm-hmm. And I had one situation, I'll tell this last little story before we wrap up. I was counseling at one of the high schools, and a young man was told by his teacher to put the phone down, but he still kept the phone in his hand. That's what's getting a lot of young people in trouble today, are these phones. But the thing was that he got mad because the teacher wouldn't give him the phone back once the class ended. And he got mad and picked the teacher up and carried her across the room and actually put her feet into the trash can. And like I told him when I found out about it the next day, you could have been accused and charged with assault and battery. And people don't think about these things. Before you hit somebody, before you verbally say something to somebody, there's consequences behind every action that you do. Mm-hmm. And that's what people need to be more accountable for, like what you said, and be accountable. But they need to know how they can punish themselves and the self-discipline when it comes down. Devon Watson, thank you for coming on the show today. Summer Crawford Moore, thank you for coming on the show today. I want to thank Crystal LaSosa, who's a candidate in District 4 for state rep, and also to the Honorable Roy McAllister Jr. This has been a great, great opportunity to talk, and we've touched upon, and I think you used my word, plethora of different topics today when it comes down to raising our young men and young women. So again, you're watching a very special edition of Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin. So again, we don't have all of the answers, but we want to make you start going to other people to find the answers that you can have to raise your young people in your household. Have a great rest of this weekend.